Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you the basics of CSS. CSS stands for Cascade Style Sheets, and in a nutshell CSS describes how the HTML elements are going to be displayed on a screen, paper, or in other media. One of the key CSS concepts is the box model. In the box model, all HTML elements can be considered as boxes. Essentially, a box wraps around every HTML element and consists of margin, borders, padding, and the actual contents, as we can see here in the screen. The box model allows us to add a border around elements and to define a space between the elements. So the content of the box is where the text and the images and videos will appear. Then we have the padding that clears an area around the content, and the padding is transparent. Then we have the border that goes around the padding, and then we have the margin that is also transparent and clears the area outside the border. Another important concept that worth mentioning is that CSS have been evolving along with the different devices that we use to browse the web, such as laptops, tablets, mobile phones, TVs, and the list goes on and on. So CSS will help us to adapt the HTML format dynamically to the device where we want to display our web page. That is known as responsive web design, and is going to require a whole new video because it's huge. What we're going to do now is we are going to start with a basic HTML document. Remember to watch the HTML course video, by the way. And we are going to start adding some styles to our page using CSS. So let's get into it. Okay, let's see first what are the different ways we have to add CSS to our HTML document. The first one is inline. So we can add an attribute, for example, to this heading element. And this attribute is the style attribute. So we can say style, and here we can assign a different text color, for example. So we say color, and we select blue. We refresh, and as you can see, the color has changed. So another way to insert CSS in our HTML document is by adding the style tag in the head of the document. So I'm going to do that. And here I can do something like this. H1, this is going to be a selector. We are going to see what a selector is in just a few minutes. And here I can say color blue. And doing this, we are changing again the color of the text. So let's change it by, I don't know, brown. Let's save this, let's refresh. And as we can see, we have a different color. And another one is by defining an external CSS file. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to paste this here. And I'm going to call this file style.css. And I'm going to store this CSS file in the same folder we have the index.html. And now I'm going to remove this. Now I'm going to include that external CSS file by using the link tag like this. I'm going to add the rel attribute, that is the relationship between this tag with the file that we want to include, or with the link that we want to include. In this case, it's going to be a style sheet. We define the type of the file. That's going to be text/CSS. This is the content type of the file. And then we have the href of the file. That is going to be style.css, because this CSS file is stored in the same folder that this HTML file. I'm going to close this tag, and I'm going to change the color of this heading. Let's say black again. I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh, and now the text is black again. So we reviewed the 3 ways to define the style of our page. Inline, using the style tag, and using an external CSS file, including it using the link element. Okay, now let's see some selectors. The first one is going to be the element selector. In this case, we're using that type of selector. We are saying the H1 element is going to have this style, this text color in this case. Another way to define selectors is using the ID of the element. We can define the ID as an attribute of the element, like this. We can say heading 1. And then if we go to the CSS, we can say hashtag heading 1 is going to have this style. So I'm going to change again just to show the difference here. And let's select green here. I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to save the HTML as well. I'm going to refresh. And now, as we can see, using the ID selector, we defined that it's going to have green as the text color. And another way to define a selector is using classes. So we can define a class here. Let's use the same name. The only thing here is that in the CSS definition, we need to use a period before the name of the class. So I'm going to change the color again. Let's say blue violet. Okay, let's save this. Let's refresh. And as we can see now, the color has changed to blue violet using the class as the selector to set the style. So we reviewed the 3 types of selectors: element, ID, and class. And there is another one that is the universal selector, where we can do something like this. We can add this wildcard, and let's change this to show the difference. Let's set this black again, for example. I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh. And as we can see, now the text is black because this applies to all the HTML elements, in particular to this heading. If I add, for example, a paragraph here, it's going to use the same color. Let's change it just to see the difference. Let's use pink, for example. I'm going to save this, I'm going to refresh, and as we can see, the color changed on all the HTML elements of the document. Okay, let's see now some text formatting. I'm going to use this page that is pretty popular for the designer, for the web designers actually. So I'm going to copy some text here. to paste it here. And I'm going to set a property to align the text. That is called text align. There are different options. The first one is justify. I'm going to save. I'm going to refresh. And this is how it looks for this type of text alignment. Okay, we can also align it to the left. I'm going to refresh this. Okay, we can align it to the right. And we can center it. Remember that all the elements, also the heading, is moving because we are using a wildcard, and all these settings apply to all the elements that are part of the HTML document. Okay, and now I'm going to refresh, and the title and the text is centered. Okay, let's see some other attributes. One of them is the text decoration. So let's add it here, text decoration. And we can say overline. I'm going to save, I'm going to refresh. And this is how it looks like when you set overline to the text decoration. You can also set as a text decoration line through. I'm going to refresh this, and this is how it looks like. And you can also underline the text. To save this, I'm going to refresh, and this is how it looks like. And there is another attribute such as text transformation. Sorry, text transform. And we can set, for example, everything to uppercase. I'm going to save, I'm going to refresh, and now all letters are in uppercase. We can also set lowercase. I'm going to refresh. Okay, there is another property named text indent that is used to specify the indentation of the first line of a text. So let's add that property. And here, pixels is some of the ways that we can use to specify length. And as you can see here, there is a space between this title and the top of the page. If I reduce this to 1 pixel, for example, we can see the difference. I'm going to refresh. And there are some other attributes such as letter spacing. So let's add that. Letter spacing, and let's say 10 pixels. I'm going to refresh, and we're going to see that now the space between the letters is 10 pixels. These are some of the text formatting properties that we can set. There are some more, so these are some of the most important. Okay, let's see how the box model works. I'm going to change this paragraph I'm going to replace it by a div element. and I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to use the element selector for divs. And I'm going to set the background color to light blue. I'm going to set the width. I'm going to set the width of the div to 300 pixels. I'm going to add a border. Remember that the box model includes 4 different elements. We have the content, we have the padding, we have the border, and we have the margin. The content is where the text is going to be. The padding clears an area around the content. Then we have the border, and then we have the margin. The padding and the margin are transparent. So let's add the border first. Let's make it 15 pixels, solid, green, for example. Then let's add some padding, 30 pixels, and then let's add some margin, 15 pixels. Let's refresh. And here we have the light blue as the background color. So this is the content. This is the width from here to here. We have the border as green. We have the padding between the content and the border. And then we have the margin. I'm going to increase the margin, let's say 50, to see it more clear. With the refresh. Okay, we have the margin. That is this space between the border of the element of the box and the border of the browser or the page. Okay, so now you have some of the most important CSS fundamentals in order to define the look and feel of your HTML pages. This is Enrique with pragmaticreviews.com signing off. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and I see you guys later. Take care. Bye.